everybody, and thank you for coming to another nature story time. Today's story time is super special because behind me is Lake Superior, so if it's a little loud, I'm sorry, the waves are crashing. But our story today is all about the Great Lakes, so what better setting than the magnificent Lake Superior? So let's go ahead and get started. Our book is called The Great Lakes, Our Freshwater Treasure. It was written by Barb Rosenstock and illustrated by Jamie Kristoff. Hopefully we have enough daylight left. It's sunset here. Can you find them on this map? The Great Lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. 5 blue jewels set a bit off-center in a belt across North America's middle. How did they get here? Can you find them? It all started with snowflakes. A lot of snowflakes. About 2 million years ago, the Earth tilted, and this part of the globe wound up a bit farther from the sun. It was cold all the time. If you were a snowflake back then, you were in luck. You didn't melt. Neither did many of your fellow flakes, even in summer. Zillions of you piled up year after year and packed into ice. This ice formed a glacier, the biggest ever known. This glacier covered 5 million square miles, more than half of North America. It was super tall, like 10 skyscrapers piled atop one another, about 2 miles thick in some places, and super heavy, pressing the land surface down. A skyscraper deep, at least 800 feet. The colder it got, the more the ice built up and pushed the glacier forward. If it warmed a bit, the ice melted and the glacier pulled back. Colder forward, warmer back, scouring the land for hundreds of thousands of years, tumbling trees, pulverizing rock, digging holes. A million or so years later, the Earth tilted again, and this part of the globe returned closer to the sun. Whoosh! The glacier melted. Its water was trapped in 5 glacier-dug holes. As the weight of the ice was removed, thawing land froze all around. The Great Lakes were born. Like growing children, the Great Lakes changed size and shape. For thousands of years, their boundaries shifted, north, south, east, and west. A dynamic mix of waterways fed and drained their basins. Thundering storms, furious blizzards, battering waves, and shifting winds created a wealth of rare dunes, timeless forests, and limestone cliffs. Under the water, meadows of wild celery and curly pondweed swayed. Microscopic diatoms fed plankton, worms, and crustaceans. These tiny creatures fattened 139 native species of fish, including perch, trout, walleye, and a fish as big as a very big person, the bony-plated lake sturgeon. It can grow 7 feet long, weigh as much as 200 pounds, and live more than 100 years. The Great Lakes took their current shape only 3,000 years ago. They're the youngest major geological feature on the planet. Oh, that's pretty cool. Millions of years younger than the Appalachian Mountains, the Great Plains, and the Mississippi River. They keep changing today. Storms move shorelines and sand dunes. Land rebounding from the glacier's weight rises. Rocks wear down as the lake levels surge and fall. Still, the water flows on, west to east. Because all 5 Great Lakes connect, working together like a single stair-stepped river. So Lake Superior is the furthest west, and it's also the deepest of the lakes. Then we have Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Erie. Then it goes over Niagara Falls into Lake Ontario and into the St. Lawrence Seaway, into the Atlantic Ocean. Pretty cool. If you were a drop of water in cold, deep Lake Superior, you would spend years slipping along the currents, this way and that, until you were bouncing through the churning rapids of St. Mary's River. You could find yourself pushed along with other drops into wide Lake Huron, bumping through the treacherous straits of the Mackinac and moving into windy Lake Michigan. But wait, if you reached Lake Michigan, you'd get turned around and travel back into Lake Huron. These 2 Great Lakes have the same water level, and they trade drops all the time. Sooner or later, though, you would funnel your way into the St. Clair River, take a lazy float through its marshy flats, and squeeze into the murky Detroit River, eventually reaching the shallow waters of Lake Erie. Is your trip over? No! Now you would speed up through the sloping Niagara River until Niagara Falls. You're one drop in a lot of drops. About 54 million drops. Part of 3,000 tons of Great Lakes water plunging over the falls each second. Splash! You would dive into narrow Lake Ontario and tour around thousands of islands in the St. Lawrence River. Until at last, you and the other freshwater drops mix with the salty drops that make up the Atlantic Ocean. Your trip passes by the longest coastline in the mainland United States, 4,530 miles, more than the Atlantic and Pacific coasts combined. Guess how long that trip takes the average drop? About 300 years. That's pretty cool. The Great Lakes hold 6 quadrillion gallons of water. That's this number, 6 quadrillion. If the Great Lakes ever spilled over the land, everyone in North America would be swimming in water 5 feet deep. Still, that's not much compared to the entire planet. The Earth is covered in water, a lot of water, 326 quintillion gallons. That's this number right here. What makes Great Lakes water so special? Imagine that 100 bottles contain all of Earth's water. Thirsty? Hope not. 97 bottles are salt water, mostly from the oceans. Undrinkable. 2 bottles are fresh water, but they're frozen solid, locked mostly in polar ice. If you were a bottle of liquid fresh water, you'd be the only one on the planet. And every living thing wants a sip. Gulp. Most of this fresh water is stuck underground, hard to reach. Only a fraction is on Earth's surface. And wow, do people use it. If you were a person, wait, you are a person. So you probably use surface fresh water every day for drinking, washing, or playing. This water grows the food you eat, cooks it, and rinses the dishes. Surface fresh water runs factories, transports cargo, and even creates electricity. It makes up 3/4 of the water used in the United States. Where does much of this precious water come from? The Great Lakes. They contain almost all the surface freshwater on the North American continent. 1 in every 5 glasses of the surface freshwater on Earth. Whoa. For thousands of years, native peoples harvested the Great Lakes' rich resources, using only what they needed. But a few hundred years ago, Europeans settled in the Great Lakes region and started overusing the resources. They took more than they needed, more and more, every year. People cleared forests, overfished waters, drained swamps, farmed wetlands, dug canals and seaways, constructed cities, and built huge factories. The Great Lakes struggled. Unshaded waters grew warmer, dozens of invasive plants and animals moved in, many native plants and animals died off. Dangerous chemicals swirled and settled in the lake beds. When the Great Lakes' shining water started turning to sludge, finally, people changed. They began to protest pollution, preserve shoreline, protect plants and animals. More people spoke up for the Great Lakes, more and more every year. Some chemicals were cleaned up, some trees grew back, some creatures returned. More needs to be done. How can you help? This looks pretty familiar. The same way we can all help. By caring for wild places. By working with groups that protect the lakes. And by saving fresh water. Wherever we are, whenever we can. Then the Great Lakes, Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. Those 5 blue jewels set a bit off-center in a belt across North America's middle have the chance to remain a great treasure for you, for all of us, forever. So, as a family, perhaps you can talk about some of the things that you could do to help take care of our water and brainstorm some ways that you and your family might either help conserve water, so that means use less of water, or help clean up our water. So things you could do to keep water around you free from pollution and garbage and litter. I'll put some resources down below, and we hope to see you again soon for another story time. Bye-bye.